Hello and welcome to Business Edge. I am Perpetua Fason Repeater. On the show today, we shall be reviewing top energy business stories in Nigeria and also Kenyan banks' bad loans grew by 26%. What does this portend for the financial sector and even the economy? And finally on today's show, Nigeria's booming Nollywood industry, churning out over 2,500 films yearly and generating billions, demands attention. Can this economic powerhouse reach its full potential? Well, before we head to our first conversations, let's bring you African headlines. Presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in last year's election, Atiku Abubakar, has demanded explanation from the federal government over an emergency loan of $3.3 billion by the NNPC Limited. Atiku Abubakar, who is also a former vice president of the country, in a statement personally signed, expressed worry that since the loan was secured last year, the Tinubu-led administration has handled the affair in secrecy. The deal is supposed to be a crude-for-cash loan arranged by the African Export-Import Bank, which was said will cushion the harsh foreign exchange environment. According to the statement, a special purpose vehicle called Project Gazelle Funding Limited is driving the deal, and it was incorporated in the Bahamas. The SPV is the borrower, while the NNPC is the sponsor, with an agreement to pay with crude oil to the SPV in order to liquidate the loan at an interest rate that is a little over 12%, close to 12%. The licensed and legal coal miners in Kogi State have commended the federal and state governments for their recent crackdown on illegal mining activities in the state. In a statement, the miners expressed their support and appreciation for the joint efforts to eliminate illegal miners. The statement specifically mentioned President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Minister of Solid Mineral Development, Dele Alake, and Governor Yahaya Bello. The Kogi State government has taken action against illegal mining, seizing 21 trucks loaded with coal, totaling 945 tons. The crackdown was initiated following a ban on illegal mining activities by the federal government. The government formed a joint task force comprising various security agencies to enforce the ban. The licensed miners praised the security agencies for their role in combating illegal mining, which has negatively impacted the economy and security of the country. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, is urging Kenya to impose significant new taxes on wealthy individuals and large corporations in a move that could reignite debate about income inequality and the role of government in stimulating economic growth. The IMF's call comes as Kenya grapples with a declining tax-to-GDP ratio, which has fallen from 15.5% in 2014 to 13.1% in 2020. The fund argues that the proliferation of tax incentives and exemptions for the wealthy and large investors is a major contributor to this decline, and that a fairer and more efficient tax system is needed to boost government revenue and fund essential public services. The Kenyan government has said it is open to considering the IMF's recommendations, but it is also facing pressure from businesses and wealthy individuals who oppose higher taxes. Well, those are the headlines we're tracking for you at this hour. We'll take a break now, and when we come back, we'll bring you the market update. Stay here. Welcome back. The NGX has recorded its lowest growth rate over the past week as the all-share index appreciated by 578.82 points from Wednesday's 101,571.11 points. In line with the gains recorded in the market on Thursday, market breadth was slightly positive as 33 stocks recorded gains against 28 losers. Now, let's take a look at the numbers. Here is what we have for the all-share index. That's the market yesterday. So we have the all-share index. The percentage change is 0.57%, and that's why we're calling it a slow growth, because before now we were seeing 3%, 2-point-something%, but now we're seeing 0.57%. So the question is, are we seeing a slowdown anytime soon? Time will tell. And then we have 102,149.93 points. That's the all-share index, and that's why the Nigerian exchange market is doing really well. Let's move on to the capitalization. For market capitalization, the percentage change, of course, the same 0.57%. And we have 55.91 trillion naira. And now that's a huge one. So now let's go to the top gainers for yesterday's market. For the top gainers, this is Universal Insurance. You have it. It's closed at 44 kobo. That's after gaining 10%. Seplat, of course, Seplat has been doing very well on the bourse, if you ask me. It's been gaining, and that's why you see that for a very long time we've had the energy sector and, of course, talk about oil and gas also. Oil and gas, that's energy. And, of course, the industrial sector, these have been the movers for a very long time, and that isn't changing anytime soon, or maybe we never can tell. So Seplat has a 10% gain. So now if you're going to buy Seplat stock share, you're buying one at 3,074 naira 60 kobo. For ICO Insurance, you have it there, 1 naira 34 kobo with 9.84% gain. And then Japan Gold, 2 naira 80 kobo with 9.8% gain. Here also we have May and Baker for the pharmaceutical sector with 7 naira 30 kobo. That's what it closed yesterday, and that was at 9.77%. Let's take a look at the losers for yesterday's market. Here we have Ikeja Hotel losing 9.91%, and now it sold for 7 naira 18 kobo. That's the closing price yesterday. Honeywell Flour, 4 naira 47 kobo after losing 9.7% yesterday. Now, Linkage Assurance, you have it here, 1 naira 20 kobo after losing by 8.40%. At the UPDC rig, it has 5 naira 70 kobo, and of course that was after losing 8.06%. And finally we have Mark Nichols here. Well, it's closed at 1 naira 35 kobo yesterday, and that was a 7.53% loss. Now let's look at the sectoral performance. Well, I think it's good news for the financial services, because before now we were having the banking sector and the insurance sector. They were always in the red, I mean, for some days now. But it's a good thing. I mean, we have it up there now, 1.39% for the banking sector. And for insurance, you have it plus 1.95. And that's what you have there. Now, for oil and gas, plus 4.91. It's been doing really well, I must say. And then the consumer goods plus 0.08%. And finally, for the industrial goods, you have it there, minus 0.11%. That's what we have here for the sectoral performance. Well, these are the numbers we have at this moment. We'll take a break now, and when we come back, we'll bring you more on the show. Stay with us. On the top business stories in Nigeria, we shall be considering Atiku's request to the federal government to explain NNPC's $3.3 billion repayment loan deal. And then we also have Nigeria-Morocco's $30 billion gas pipeline, and report that the Nigerian National Assembly is set to empower NEITI to prosecute offenders in the country's oil and gas industry. And joining me for this is Kayode Ekundayo, oil and gas analyst. Kayode, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Well, before we get to Atiku's questions, he asked, a number of them. What did you make of the Afrexim NNPC crude oil deal?
Yeah, it's a good deal, and we are expecting that the federal government through the NNPC will make use of it. A lot of opportunity surround this $3.3 billion for acquiring, and we expect that by the time the deal is completed, in terms of execution of the deal, it will favor Nigeria, because a lot of things are attached to it, and that was the reason why the federal government went for it.
All right, you said something. You said it's a good deal. We'll come to that later on. But then the former vice president had said the federal government has been silent about the deal, saying that it is only unofficial sources in the NNPC that have been speaking. Do you share the same sentiment? Is it something that Nigerians should be worried about?
Yeah, well, I'm not sharing that the same sentiment. Politics is there. So me, I'm looking at the benefit the loan will do for Nigeria. I'm not looking at the politics angle of it. It might not be the right thing I'm looking at. The Atiku may have more information, more than some of us that are in the system. But what I can say is that the deal is good for us, for a period of time now. We've been on this subsidy, the refinery is there, many other things. And you know that the Port Harcourt refinery, the Warri refinery, These are all what I thought, who are told that this money is meant for. And you remember the CBN dollar challenge. These are what this deal is all about. So if there is any other thing that is apart from that, I don't really know. So, but this is the area which I know that the deal is actually meant to be useful. And that is what I'm saying. By the time we see the end of the deal, Nigerians should be proud to know details about how this money was expended on some of these projects they are determined to use it for.
All right, let me take you back a little. You talked about, beg your pardon, how comfortable you are with the deal, but there are people who are asking questions. Before we get to some of Atiku's questions, some persons are saying that this particular loan we're repaying with about 12%, and then we're doing 90,000 barrels of oil per day, every day, for 5 years. That's what we are paying back. And there are concerns about, how much are we pegging the price of crude oil at? So how much are we actually paying back? And for some of these persons, they're saying if you're pegging it at $77 per barrel, it means that we are paying about $12 billion compared to what we got, which is just about 4 times what we were given. Doesn't that bother you?
It's not easy. Let me come down now. The situation on ground is that we don't really know details. It's what they spell out for us. That is what we know. How this money is going to be repaid, it was in details. But the benefit is what they told Nigerians that this is the reason why this money is being asked for. And this is the reason why the money was given to Nigeria. They said the loan will be used to execute some programs, which we know that is going to benefit. But the repayment plan is what I really don't know details. And the benefit of it is what we should focus on. I know something, and what Nigerians should be looking at is the end result of this loan. We shouldn't look at what is coming, that entrance or whatever that may be, that may cause some confusion alongside with it. It's an opportunity for us. Nigeria was not the country that got this opportunity. Some other African countries got this opportunity. They are using it to their own benefit. So I don't think we should be worried about how this thing will be used or executed or the kind of repayments plan. Nigeria produce up to 1.5 million barrels of crude oil today at $77 per barrel. That's a lot of money for the country. I think Nigeria have the capacity to pay this money.
All right, I think quite interesting points or point of view right there. Well, the federal government has actually released some details. That's with NNPC bringing out the frequently asked questions. And they were saying that it was pegged at $65 per barrel and all of that. But let me take you through some of the questions that, the former vice president was asking. He said, has the federal government accepted the loan? Of course, we have some answers. We know there was a drawdown of 2 point something, and we have some amount still remaining. And then he also asked, is the loan in the government's borrowing plan as approved by the National Assembly? These are some of the questions he asked. And then he also asked another question right there, and he was saying that, what is the interest rate, including the tenor? And then he said, who the parties are, who are the parties to the loan? These were some of the questions he was asking, and he wanted to know the roles that specific people who are involved in this particular deal are expected to play. He talked about the conditions of the loan, including tenor, repayment terms, the collateral, and interest rate. I don't know, you have said that this does not bother you, but let's look at this final one. He was asking another question. He said, why register an SPV in the Bahamas, knowing the recent scandal of the country's notoriety for, warehousing unclean assets? What do you make of these questions that are asked by this man?
I will.
Mr. Kayode, if you can hear me, I'd like to know what your thoughts are on that particular matter.
I agree with Atiku in that area.
Okay. Do go ahead, please.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I will agree with the former vice president on those concerns he raised. Actually, I was looking through the document yesterday. I raised certain questions, which I really agree with the former president. Actually, you see, the tenure, all those things he raised is genuine, truly. But I think we need to be patient and see how this thing will be done. I think NNPC have to do more to educate Nigerians on the benefits and how this loan will be repaid. The NNPC have been silent so much on this. They have drawn down about 2.3 billion already. So, but they should explain more in details how this money will be used, the tenor.
Right, they've been able to draw down 2.25, and you want them to explain more, even though they have released some.
Plan
okay.
And what the
All right, I think we'll just move on to other stories. Well, let's look at the $30 billion Nigeria-Morocco gas pipeline. What more do we need to know about this particular pipeline, and what interest or what impact would this make for Nigeria's gas sector? All right, I guess we're having difficulties establishing a connection or even communicating with our guest, Kayode Ekunda, your oil and gas analyst. I guess we'll just leave it there. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll bring you more conversations. Stay with us. The stock of bad loans held by Kenyan banks grew 26% or 129.8 billion Kenyan shillings in the 1 year to October 2023, revealing a limping economy and hurting banks' profitability. Data by the Central Bank of Kenya shows that non-performing loans increased to a record high of 634 billion shillings at the end of October last year. The mounting bad loans are eating into banks' profitability as they increase their loan-to-loss provisions to cover defaults. Joining me for more on this is Dr. Exen Iraki, economist and associate professor at the University of Nairobi. He joins me virtually. Thank you for joining me today.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, I guess that's what the time is over there. Okay, so now let's look at this, what's happening in Kenya. The stock of bad loans held by Kenyan banks grew to 6%, or you might want to say 129.8 billion shillings in the 1 year to October 2023. And we're seeing what that is doing, really. What specific factors do you think are contributing to this poor loan recoveries by banks?
I think there's a simple fact that the economy has not been performing very well. If you look at the Kenyan GDP growth rate in the last 1 year, it shows to about 5%, which is very good from any point of view. But when you dig deeper and find out what is happening to business, they have not been performing very well. One big factor is a fallover from COVID-19. A lot of businesses have never recovered from the ravages of COVID-19. They're still struggling. Number two is that in the last 1 year, a lot of taxes have been imposed on businesses. And the businesses have found it very hard to break even or to make profit. And then if you look at inflation, it has also gone up. The fuel prices have gone up. The cost of production has gone up. So that has eaten into the profit of a lot of companies. And a lot of companies borrow money from banks to repay back later on with their profits. So once the economy is not doing very well, once businesses are not doing very well, that is reflected in the bad loans that businesses and individuals cannot pay. And that's why you can see from the statistics, bad loans are growing, which is an indicator that business people, individuals are not doing very well economically.
Well, looking at some of the things you've talked about, you've highlighted a couple of factors. How can these issues be addressed? Because we can't just say we want to address the non-performing loans without looking at this factor. So how do we begin to address these factors, and what is the government doing really to address these underlying issues?
I think we have very good examples we can use from COVID-19 when the economy was not doing very well. For example, a lot of loans were renegotiated. People are given longer terms to pay their loans. And beyond individuals, the government also has brought some policy changes that have not been very conducive to the business environment. So maybe what the government can do is to postpone some of the taxes or spread them out so that businesses can be able to weather the high cost of production. The government can also go and subsidize some areas, not subsidize, but reduce costs in some areas. One critical area that we have been complaining about is the cost of power. The cost of power has been very high, and that affects business profitability. So if the government can spread the taxes, if they must be instituted, bring down the cost of production, which is most electricity, and then look at alternative energy means so that we don't just keep on relying on oil or fuel that is imported, but maybe develop our own oil or develop alternative sources of energy. So if we can do that, because we have a lot of renewables in this country, then the cost of doing business will go down, profits will go up, and I can assure you the banks will not report such heavy losses or non-performing loans.
Well, looking at the banks now, what do you think, or what have they been doing to address this particular issue? I mean, because it affects their own bottom line at the end of the day.
It's interesting because if you look at the bank reports every year or every quarter when they report, they are giving more and more provisions for bad loans. And such provisions are money that banks could be putting into productive use, maybe lending to small businesses or lending to people so they can consume or they can expand their businesses. So I think banks are being affected with those provisions. And the sooner the economy turns around so that we don't have those provisions, the better for investors, the better for banks, the better for everybody.
Let's look at profit before tax now. For banks under 10 months, dipped slightly to 199.6 billion shillings, and that's from 204.7 billion shillings booked at the same period in 2022. Now, this dip in earnings comes amidst higher interest income, pointing to loan-to-loss provisions eating banks' earnings. Are there alternative strategies that banks need to, consider at this time to mitigate the impact of this particular provision on their profitability?
So maybe one solution that has been suggested, which is quite interesting, that banks should probably reduce their interest rates. Because if they reduce their interest rates, then we would have more people borrowing money. And if more people are borrowing money, then banks would make more money if more people are borrowing money. So by extension, if the interest rates are low, then we are going to have less people defaulting. But the high interest rates regime seems to be what is reigning. But I think banks can make their own decision. They lower the interest rates. We borrow more money, and we borrow more money. We are unlikely to default if the interest rates are low. And the other thing that banks can do is look for alternative sources of money. A lot of banks make a lot of money from just loans. I see no reason why they cannot think of alternative ways of making money. For example, if there's more trade between Kenya and other countries, banks give letter of credit, and that's an extra source of income. So I think banks need to be a bit more innovative so that they don't put all their eggs in one basket in terms of lending people money when they are defaulting.
Right. The deteriorating asset quality actually points to an underperforming economy, which is struggling to generate enough income and jobs. And this is also shown by the Purchasing Managers Index survey, which depicts contractions in the business environment for 10 out of 12 months last year. I'd like you to look at the specific industries or sectors contributing most to the underperformance of the Kenyan economy and why this is so.
I think one sector that has always been bright in Kenyan industry has been ICT. ICT has been doing very well. The other area that has been doing very well is financial services, banking, insurance, and so on. But the other factor that is very important, the other sector that is very important to the Kenyan economy happens to be agriculture, contributing about almost a quarter of the Kenya's GDP. So if the agriculture is not doing very well, then the whole sector, the whole economy is affected. But the good thing news is that in the last 1 year or so, the rains have improved. So agriculture is doing much better. And you expect the good performance of agriculture to be represented or to be felt in the rest of the economy. But at the end of the day, it's about the whole economy performing, not just some sectors. And good government policies should be instituted. Individuals should probably work harder so the economy turns around and we start complaining about bad loans and other economic woes.
I'd like us to close on this note. Now, according to the credit report survey, 45% of lenders indicated that they expected defaults to rise in last quarter of 2023 and to continue in the early stages of this new year. Now, are there risk mitigation strategies that they could consider to prepare for the anticipated increase in defaults?
That's a very interesting question because banks are stressed by the bad loans. The government itself is also struggling to pay loans, particularly loans from the Eurobond and other loans that are borrowed from China and other countries. So everybody is squeezed by the bad loans, whether it is government, whether it is banks. So, but I think the one option which appears strange is for us to be a bit more patient before things turn loud. Because if you look at the Kenyan exchange rate, it has started becoming strong. If you look at inflation, it's also going down because of good food prices, because of interest rates going down in the US, and other positive factors. So unless there is a lot of problem in the Red Sea because of the Houthi rebels, I think, in my opinion, the worst has happened. Things will start turning around in maybe the next 1 quarter or so.
I guess that's not good enough. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us, Dr. Xen Iraqi, economist and Associate Professor, University of Nairobi. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll bring you international headlines and another interesting conversation you do not want to miss. Stay with us. Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan's blockbuster tops the 2024 Oscar nominations with 13 nods. But while Hollywood giants dominates the awards race, Africa's film powerhouse, Nollywood, turns out over 2,500 movies annually, generating $6.4 billion and contributing 2.3% to Nigeria's GDP. What's more, deepening the contribution of this sector to Nigeria's economy has become imperative. And joining me for more on this is Victoria Oga, Account Manager at Nollywood Films, Film One. Thank you for joining me today, Victoria.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'd like us to begin with, factors that drive box office performance, because, that's what we're looking at, the money, right? So is it merely due to the storyline, the producer, the cast, or a certain mixture of factors? How do movies, pull that numbers or pull those numbers?
Okay, so I think it's a factor of so many things. It's just, we can't categorically say it's just one thing. It's a mix of so many things, and that would be the type of story you're telling, the production value, the cast, the elements in the film, the commerciality of this film. Is it relatable to the people who you're targeting to watch this film, and also the marketing of it. So I think it's a mix of everything, and also the period of release. So it's a blend of everything at the end of it.
Absolutely. Well, away from Hollywood now, let's look at, the fact that 2023 was a year characterized by several uninspiring macroeconomic indicators. We had record high inflation, depreciation of the naira, and even erosion of earnings. Yet, we're seeing box office success like never before. What do you think is responsible for this in Nigeria?
Okay, so I think I would say no one saw this coming. And even if we did, we had envisioned that this would happen to the Nollywood sector someday, but we didn't know how soon it was going to happen. And now, if you look at it, Nigeria faced a whole lot in terms of inflation, and this also affected our industry. And just churning these sort of numbers, I think somehow it just means that you need to keep doing the hard work or keep doing the work, because you do not really know exactly what would hit and what would not. So ideally, I would say this success, the secret to this success is a factor of so many things. Number one, we had the right product. We have more cinema screens. We have a premium ticket pricing in the holiday period. We also have a good marketing push for this movie, and then basically it turned out to be some good support from the entire industry as just the cinema or the distribution wing. So we had people support the movement. We had the support of the actors, the producer, the cast, and even the industry at large. So I think this win is basically the industry just working together to achieve all of this. The exhibition houses also did their part to making this a success. So it's a mix of everything at the end of the day.
All right,
regardless of the inflation.
Right. I want to narrow this down to a particular movie maker or filmmaker that we know in Nigeria. This person's movies sit conveniently at the top 3 spot of highest grossing movies ever so far in Nigeria. And this person is Funke Akindele. Now, she sits here with A Tribe Called Judah at number 1 with over ₦1 billion and still counting. Battle on Bukka Street is number 2 with 668 million naira. And then we have Omogeto the Saga with 636 million naira. Now, for somebody like this, I'm looking at what's the secret? Is it the timing? Is it the targeting of the holiday season? Is it the popularity? Or is it the marketing, the work that's put into marketing these movies? What is it for her, having her 3 movies sit on that top 3 spot of 5 top movies of all time, top grossing movies of all time in Nigeria?
Okay, this is a very interesting question. I think it's a mix of so many things. And first off, I would start, if you look at the kind of movies Funke Akindele churns out, there is something about it, and then it is basically targeting every Nigerian. And when I say every Nigerian, the people who typically do not support Nollywood movies, or the people who like to watch Hollywood movies and all of that. But Funke Akindele is able to give us one content that drives everyone together. That's one. Number two is it is very original. It is relatable, and they should pay so much attention to the detail of how it should be executed. Then also, she doesn't just stop at creating this wonderful content. The marketing is also something that we should also give to her. So she takes so much time into marketing this film. Basically, digital marketing. Digital marketing is one aspect of marketing that actually thrives so much in Nigeria. And then also do not limit it to digital marketing. We still see some form of out of home. So now I'm talking about the billboards and also talking about the in-cinema publicity. That is also something that she does for all her films. Then also to the merchandise. So there's always something that you would also aspire to get from the film. You're not an actor of this film, but if you wear a shirt that has the title of our film, then you feel belonging. So I think it's a mix of so many things. But first off, the content has to match whatever you're trying to do. So the content for me is key, and then every other thing follows. And also the kind of casting. If you look at the cast in all of our movies, these are people that have like a huge following, a good traffic, and then people that everyone wants to see in a movie. So I think she just dots the T's properly.
Absolutely. That's business for you. You need to make sure you're mapping out the right things so you can recoup the money at the end of the day. Let's close with this. How adequate are Nigeria's 91 cinemas and 303 screens in raking in the type of numbers we're looking at? Because I believe we can make much more than this. How adequate are these numbers, and what are the opportunities really here when we talk about cinemas and screens?
Okay, so as distributors, we have the responsibility of educating the industry of what needs to be done and how it should be done. Now, in terms of the exhibition housing, we currently have 91 cinemas, and we can see that there's a growth. It means that every year people are investing into this sector. That means there's something there. Now, how have they been able to contribute to these successful numbers? It means that there is something that the cinemas are all doing. They all want to make profit, and then they increase the number of screens that they have. So cinemas who have started with 1-2 screens are having more than that number of screens. We are also having more cinema buildings, especially in the communities, typically where people do not have the cinema outfits. So we can see, instead of you going so far to watch the film, you can actually watch it just somewhere around you. Something else that is working in the cinema is the type of content that is being shown to them. So if you give them the right film, it means that they can maximize whatever potentials this content has and then create some nice revenue for everyone. Another thing that has happened again is the premium pricing. So when you have the blockbuster titles, the cinemas are now, they can actually increase the ticket pricing because they are very certain that because the film is great, it would match whatever pricing they're putting out there. And you see people coming to watch. So yes, so when the content is great, it's very relatable to everyone, it's bringing the traffic, then they can make the numbers,
Thank you so much, Victoria Olga. I know you have a lot to say, but we just have to wrap it up here. I've been speaking with Victoria Olga, account manager at Nollywood Films, Film 1. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
And that's our offering on the show today. Many thanks for watching. I am Perpetua Fasomi Peter. Do enjoy the rest of the day. Bye for now.